All right, now some of you are not going to like this video very much. And the reason for that is I'm going to challenge a belief that I think most real estate agents have held on to for years and years and years and years that I'm going to challenge. And perhaps, I don't know if this will be the case or not, but perhaps through today's episode, you may see things slightly different and really have to think to yourself, wow, is that is my worldview that I've had for I don't know how long been wrong this whole time? I don't know. You're going to decide that at the end of this video. But what we're going to get into today reminds me of this quote from Mark Twain. He said, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so." Now, here's the thing. I've got a question for you to start off this conversation. Have you ever left a listing appointment that you thought, that you believed went so well? You've said to yourself, wow, I really hit it off with that seller. We got along great. We really, really were able to build a lot of rapport. It seemed like they really liked me. And then just days later, maybe they tell you, maybe they don't, you find out they listed the house with another agent. If that has ever happened to you, and it's happened to all of us, you have to think to yourself, well, what's going on here? Because the worldview that I'm going to challenge today is one that has said to us all that people do business with people they like. Well, I don't know that that's true. Because let me ask you another question. Has there ever been a time where somebody that you care about, that's in your life, whether it be a friend, a family member, someone who maybe you consider that you love, certainly they like you, but it goes much deeper than that. Has there ever been a time that they have done business with someone else? And you say, oh gosh, it's happened to all of us. What's going on here? What's going on here? Well, I'm going to explain to you exactly what's going on here. So before we jump into today's message, for those of you that have goals that you are committed to actually achieving, and you've made a promise to yourself and to your family that you will achieve those goals, I'm going to put a link in the description for us to potentially have a conversation about working together so that we can support you in a way that would allow you from a coaching perspective to hit those goals. All right. So for the few of you that may be interested in having that conversation, you can schedule a day and time that works best for you. There's a link in the description. All right. So again, let's really dive into this. I believe, and I was bought into this for a long time, the lie that says, well, people do business with people they like. Well, again, I don't know that that's actually true. People do business with people they trust first. And if they like them, it's a bonus. That is the worldview that I operate from. And through this conversation, I think you'll make up your own decision. But for me, it was clear. Because what I did for years and years and years and years, I was bought into this myth, or this lie rather, that people do business with people they like. And I would go there and they would, well, I believed they liked me a lot. I mean, we got into conversations that would lead me to believe that the potential seller really liked me. And certainly there were people in my life that I had great relationships with. These are really good friends of mine who I believe liked me a lot based on the time we spent together, that would do business with other people. Because here's a question for you to consider. When you make a big decision in your life, like as an example, maybe you need to have some type of surgery. I operate from this belief that when you're talking to the surgeon, the thing on your mind isn't whether or not, okay, I'm going to find a surgeon I really, really like. No, you're going to find a surgeon who you believe or who you trust will do the best job. Same thing with an attorney. And so I believe the same thing is happening when sellers decide to hire a real estate agent to handle the sale of their home, that the highest thing on their list is not how much do we like this person. They seem like a fun night out. I don't believe that's at the top of their chart. I don't believe that when sellers sit there and say, okay, we're going to interview 2 or 3 agents that we want to represent us in the sale of our home, they're not looking for a friend. They're not looking for a buddy. And most agents are being taught that that is exactly what they're, let's go build a relationship. Now, you're not going to go there and be a jerk, right? But it's not at the top of their chart. And let me give you some really good concrete examples, all right? You see, most agents show up to a listing appointment and they believe that they are there to convince the seller why they should hire them. That's what they believe. And the way in which they're going to do that is to get them to try and be friends. Well, if this person likes me, because people do business with people that they like, if I can talk about, they get into what we call BS rapport. They start talking about, oh, you like dogs? Well, I like dogs. Oh, you ski, I ski. You golf, I golf. And when they start talking about this, that, or the other thing, and they have what they believe a nice conversation with the seller. And it's not that the seller isn't enjoying that conversation, but if this is you and you're constantly going from listing appointment to listing appointment and say, wow, I really hit it off with that person, and then you never hear from them again, or you drive past their house because they won't answer your calls and there's another agent's sign in the front yard, it's because your need to get, because you have the need to get your, to be liked, your emotional needs met, because there's lots of insecurity inside of this business. And quite frankly, most agents are more concerned with looking successful than actually being successful. Because you can go to a listing appointment and go home and talk to your spouse and say, wow, that was that was a really, really good meeting. I think we really hit it. I think I'm going to get this one. Because you need that affirmation so much so that you forget that the seller is going to hire the agent that they trust who will do the best job. And so we're not looking to get our emotional needs met because we are so attached to the outcome. And that attachment to, I need this listing, I need this listing, I need this listing. I'll do whatever, Mr. Seller, I'll do whatever it takes to get my face in your front yard. Whatever it takes. You come off so needy and desperate. I'll do whatever you want. Most agents say things like, well, listen, you can call me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm always available for my clients. If I have whatever you want to pay is what I'll agree to work for. So if I've got to discount my fee next to nothing, if that means you're going to give me your listing, I'll do it. Oh, you want to, whatever you want to price, whatever you're comfortable pricing the home at, that's fine by me. If that means you're going to list it with me, then that's fine. And then what ends up happening is, in many cases, that same seller ends up listing it with an agent who charges more, listed at a price way lower than what you agreed to, and you're sitting there scratching your head. How is this possible? I gave this seller every single thing that they wanted. I told them I would do it for 1%. I agreed to list it at a price that they wanted. That was, even though it was $50,000 over market value. I told them I would get them foot rubs after every single showing. I told them that they can contact me anytime they want. So much so that I would be willing to leave my firstborn's birthday party if it meant that I was going to get right that neediness, that desperation. You reek of the desperation. That is what we call commission breath. And so Why do we do this? All right. I'm going to talk about why we do this, and then I'm going to talk about the solution. We do this because we have no pipeline, because we don't prospect, we don't have choice in the matter. Because we have such a lack of pipeline, we end up with the worst listings. Because we have no choice, because maybe this is the only listing presentation you've been on in the last 90 days, of course you're going to be needy and desperate and do things that are outside of your moral character in order to get the listing. Of course, because you're operating from scarcity so that you behave with a scarcity mindset. I got to get this. 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 So what is the solution? How is it that you actually are able to build trust with a prospect such that when you do business with clients, it's as equals? Well, number one, you have to do a lot of, now, you're not going to like this, you're going to have to do a lot of prospecting. You see, you have to get in front of more sellers than you can handle so that you have choice. Now, what does that mean exactly? You see, if you have a full pipeline, let's just pretend you could handle 3-4 listings per month. For most agents, that's plenty. It's 50 deals a year, right? That's more than most can handle. Well, if you get in front of, 5, 10, 15, 20 sellers per month, and you can only handle 4, well, that puts you in a really, really good position to be on equal footing with the seller. Again, most of you go into a listing appointment and feel and believe the seller has all the power. Well, I don't know that that's true either. There's a lot of homes for you to go out there and list. There's only one of you. Now, yes, the seller has choice who they're going to give the listing to, but I go in detached from the outcome, and I don't go in there with the mindset of, well, I'm going to try to convince this seller to list the house with me. I'm going to do something completely different. And this is the part you guys are not going to like. I go into a listing appointment with the mindset to ask questions to see if the seller can convince me to take the listing. There, I said it. And now all of you are going to be all up in arms. I can just hear you in the comments. Yeah, right. How are you going to do? What? Yeah, sure, Brandon. Easy to say, hard to do. I agree with that. Well, how do you do that? Well, again, we have to go in being 100% detached from needing this listing. I'd like your listing, but I don't need your listing. In other words, I go into this appointment detached from that decision, and I go in as equals. I go in with as much decision-making power in this as the seller. And when I do this, do you think that I become more appealing or less appealing to the seller? Do you think that a seller wants a subservient, order-taking, desperate, non-authoritative, non-expert realtor? Or do you think they want a leader, someone who shows up in their life who's going to lead them down the path that they most desire? Yeah, it's easy to pick, right? That is what a seller is looking for. So, how do we build trust? The only way to build trust is to be unapologetically honest. That's how you build trust. Is you cut through all the BS and you are so upfront about the truth that you become trustworthy. Let me give you an example. Most agents hide behind the truth. They don't shoot sellers they don't shoot sellers straight. And do you think for 1 second the sellers are that dumb that they don't know and understand and sniff what it is that you're doing? You're a salesperson. You're trying to make things seem better than they are so that the seller will give you the listing. If you don't think that sellers know that that's what's going on, you're pretty naive. Okay. So what do I mean by being disarmingly honest? Well, number one, we recognize and communicate to the seller. So when I coach an agent, it's hard for agents to do in the beginning, but then they realize the power in it, that you're actually not the agent for everyone. That is the truth. To think that, well, I am going to, that every single human being on the planet who is selling their house, that I'm the perfect agent for, I don't know if there's any other better definition of narcissistic, egotistical maniac. I don't believe that. Most agents do believe that they are best suited to serve anybody and everybody with a pulse. That simply is not true. There are many reasons why you may not be the agent for a particular seller. So that's a reality. That's the truth. You see, and as I bring up the truth to a seller, there's many more. Just wait. The seller starts to say, wow, this guy's a little bit different. They start to raise red flags in their mind about all the other mules they've met with in the market that have BS'd them during the entire listing appointment. That's number one. Number two, telling them the truth around price and recognize the fact that what the truth is and what the seller wants to believe more times than not are not the same thing. That we are able to foreshadow the fact that Mr. or Mrs. Seller, when we get to the price, more times than not, the truth around how much your home is going to sell for is very different than what most homeowners want to believe it will. And most agents aren't willing to tell you the truth because they're scared if they do, you won't list your house with them. So what do they end up doing? They end up making things seem better than they really are. You end up saying, oh yeah, I'm going to list my house with this person just for it not to sell. So then you get their permission to be honest. Number three, again, another thing you're not going to like very much, that you're not the cheapest agent in the marketplace. That in fact, there are many, many, many agents that charge less than you do. Oh my gosh, Brandon, I can't do that. I mean, if I do that, then aren't I going to lose the listing? In the absence of value, price is the only thing left. So you are going to lose the listing anyways. Because if the way in which you're losing business is by competing on price, you will lose on price because there's always someone who's going to do it cheaper. So if you go into the listing presentation and the only value you have to bring to the table is that you're the cheapest agent in the market, you are going to lose more times than you win. So by communicating up front to the person, listen, I am not the cheapest. The reality and the truth is there are many agents who charge a lot less than I do. When you communicate like that, you are starting to build actual trust. Someone who's so unapologetically honest is someone who can be trusted, yeah? And then you ask the seller, can I ask you a question about that? You bring this up before they say, well, you discount your commission, right? Of course. That's how you build trust. You bring up the thing they're thinking before they say it. This is only people that are trustworthy will do this. Shysters and people that are untrustworthy hope you don't bring it up. And then when you do, get defensive and try to justify. So when you bring it up proactively and you say, listen, I'm going to be upfront. There's a lot of agents out there that would be willing to list your home and charge a lot less than I do. The question I have for you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is what is more important? What you end up paying a real estate agent to sell your house, or how much the agent you decide to hire puts in your pocket net bottom line? Which of those two things are more important? And then I can have that conversation. And then we can get into a conversation just by asking some simple questions. Like, if an agent demonstrates to you during this conversation that they are incapable of negotiating their own income, how do you believe they're going to negotiate on your behalf when you're not there to listen to the conversation? And you're asking these questions to the seller, say, wow, it actually now becomes a red flag when they meet with agents who are willing to discount their fee to nothing, right? Lots more on that. Number 4, another reality, that selling their house is not going to be easy. How many agents, maybe you're even guilty of this too, go in there and BS a seller to say, oh, this is a piece of cake. You're not going to have any worries. This is no problem. And then you list the house, you can't even sleep at night because you're so stressed out because you've made all these false expectations that you know you can't deliver on. And you know that listing a home is up there with the top 3 stresses in life, right? Death, divorce, and selling a house. You know that's the truth, but you didn't want to tell them the truth because you were worried if you told them the truth, you wouldn't get the listing. So you lied to them. And now the whole process, it's this uphill battle. And the seller's like, dude, you said this was going to be easy. This is crazy. I got to keep my house clean for showings, and I got to wake up the baby. I get the dogs out. I'm not getting feedback. People are not taking off their shoes. I'm getting all these lowball offers. And now they start to resent you, all because your unwillingness to tell them the truth. And so most agents, they go and beg for the listing. Because again, they believe the seller has all the power, which is just simply not true. So we have to go in there with as equals to the seller and have a conversation that allows the seller to discover on their own that working with you is in fact in their best interest. And in fact, if they come to the conclusion, or you come to the conclusion that working together doesn't make sense, that is a viable option for both you and the seller. You see, when you can get to the point where you can help people make decisions yes or no without a bias towards yes, you'll stop getting think it overs. You'll stop having people say, oh, I really valued our conversation today. Just give me a couple days. We just need to think about it and we'll get back to you. You'll stop having people say that because what they really want to say to you is no, but because your desperation and your neediness, you couldn't handle hearing no. And so they just tell you, I got to think it over. And then you never hear from them again. All of that doesn't have to be the case. We don't have to operate that way, because if you're being treated this way by prospects, I urge you to look in the mirror and see how is it that you're communicating with your prospective clients.